Welcome, listener, to Right Here, Right Queer. This is Sebastian Nothwell, joined today by Luna Day,
Hi.
Noah Hawthorne,
Hello.
and Tess Carlotta.
Hiya.
And here today we are talking about annotated books. Now, first and foremost, what is an annotated book?
So for me, an annotated book is one where somebody annotates it as they go. For me, that looks like really basic notes sort of next to interesting moments, but I also like to tab alongside that, so I put little sticky notes in there so that I can easily find the annotations that I've put in there.
So we are taking a book that has already been printed and released, and as the consumer, you are taking your own notes in the margins and highlighting things.
Yeah, you can also do it on some e-reading software, so you can kind of highlight it in there and add a comment, which kind of acts as the same thing. You just type in the comment or thought or theory next to the highlighted section of the book.
Spoiler alert, that's not as fun for me.
It's nowhere near as fun and it doesn't look as pretty on your shelf.
I also think it's worth mentioning that annotations mean a lot of different things for different types of people in different contexts. So a lot of people grew up with annotating books in part of their education. So if you were in an English class, the teacher might require you to annotate a book so that they could confirm that you had read it, which means that some people grow up and they would rather die than annotate anything for fun, which I can't blame them. But there are also, I've encountered like a lot of artsy people who, instead of engaging with the book in like a critical thinking, finding themes, engaging with the books on a text level, engaging with the book on an art level. So a lot of their annotations look like doodles and drawings and stamps and stickers and all sorts of visual things. And then some people have annotations that are both of those types of things.
Absolutely.
I grew up like you don't draw or mark books. And we kind of had a conversation about this that Tess brought up the other day that was like, it's just weird to some people to do that. And I was kind of inspired by Luna and other people. And I really love it because I love to reread and just read it the first time. And then I'll read it again and underline stuff. That's what I really like about it. Seeing how your view changes.
It's also, if you're in the habit of picking up used books, fun to see where previous readers of the same text have taken either the same things that you noticed or wildly different things than what you noticed and what notes they may have made of it.
We've had that at the library where, people have donated books and I've gone through them to check for quality to see like what books we want to add into our collection. And there will be a book that is like heavily annotated by whoever last had it. And my boss will be like, oh, that's got too many markings. We can't accept that. And I'm like, I think we should accept it because I work in an academic library and like my students should have access to the thoughts and ponderings of the person who had the book before them. I think it's part of the process of sharing knowledge. I think that's the best part.
It absolutely is. One of the advantages, aside from price, in buying my textbooks used at college was having the benefit of someone who had perhaps majored in the subject or was in another way smarter than me, kind of ghosting along the book with me, teaching me what they had learned. Because Lord knows I would not have passed oceanography without them.
I've also done it with a friend, like not in a let's analyse the text kind of way. So we live quite far apart and we both bought the same book. We both read it and then swapped. So we chose two books, if that makes sense. And then, so when I went back through and read it, she'd already put all of her annotations and tabs in it. So it was kind of like reading with a friend and getting, like having a conversation, like a book club with her while I was reading the book. So that was really fun. And that was just like, yay, they finally kissed, or ooh, what does this mean? And it was just like, ooh, written in the spine. So that was good fun.
Absolutely. And speaking of kind of reading along with someone, my grandfather was an annotator of books. So now, when I have one of the books he used to own, it's like I can read with him again.
Yeah.
And the two in his collection that spring to mind, first and foremost, are a copy of The Story of English, which was a nonfiction book put out in tandem with a PBS documentary on the history of the English language. And, Grandpa went through that, took his notes, made his opinion on the text very clear in the margins. He thought they had gotten some things absolutely incorrect. But he also, in addition to the pre-printed index in the back of the book, there's about 2 further pages of handwritten index because apparently he needed to be able to reference even more things than the publishers had thought of within the text at short notice.
I love that.
That's awesome.
So what I'm hearing is that you came to be the way you are naturally?
Hereditary.
Oh, a little bit, yeah. A little. It might run in the family a little bit. The other annotated book I have of his is a random small press mid-20th century, like, Christian theory text. And he went through that and made, the usual notes, but also there are sections that he's underlined and just written human sacrifice ? In the margins.
Oh.
At other points, it's a more definitive human sacrifice period underlined in the margins.
Yikes.
Christianity is kind of based on human sacrifice.
And yeah, that is why I am the way I am.
It's all coming together now.
Oh my goodness.
So I think, to answer your question, annotating can be whatever the fuck you want it to be. It can be academic, it can be for feels, it can be for connecting with people here and not here. There's a lot of uses.
I think at the base level, we may be able to define it as marking up a book for your own purposes.
Yeah, for one reason or another.
Ideally, one you own or one you otherwise have permission to mark up, and not just one you've, borrowed from the public library and decided to go ham on.
Yeah, don't do that.
Yeah, listeners, please do not annotate your library books or books you've borrowed from a friend without their consent.
Yeah. Maybe check in first.
Yeah.
Check in.
So far we've talked about annotating as readers, but sometimes we are called upon to annotate things we've written. So how is annotating a book as a reader different from annotating as an author?
I almost think it's easier as an author because I know what I was thinking when I was writing something, and I know, like, oh, this is the scene that got added late, or this is the line that was supposed to be the title of book 3, but now I'm not sure, and that's why I dreamed it up. All of these little, like, Easter eggs for the reader, and then I can just write them down, and they're interesting for the reader. I also usually have, like, 1 or 2 moments per chapter that I'm like, ooh, I really like these moments, so I like to underline this and be like, I love this, or something like that.
Yeah, I'm the same. I also think it's a really good opportunity to share, like, your thought process as well. Like, for example, I've got a scene where I've named a character after a really horrible manager that I had. I'm like, I know you're not supposed to do that, but I secretly tell my readers sometimes. And, like, why I've named these people certain things. I also... I'm going to roast myself here. I was also a little bit mean when I first started annotating Swords and Seers for readers, because I underlined a few bits and I just put foreshadowing ? And some of them were genuine foreshadowing, but I did throw a couple of red herrings in there.
Oh my god! Oh my god!
Just because I was like, I don't want to give everything away, and I don't want them to think I'm just, making it easy for them. Like, there were genuinely a few. No,
that is so diabolical, but also so fucking funny. Oh my god.
I put a question mark on there. I was like, this could be foreshadowing. It may or may not be, but it could be. So, yeah, I did that in my Swords and Seers annotated copies.
Oh, God.
So, yeah, readers, you're welcome.
I love you so dearly.
Just, give them something to think about. Oh, my God.
Yeah. And the thing is even I can't even remember what I underlined now, so I've got a copy of it, like what I used to underline.
Oh my goodness.
What did I set myself up for?
Yeah.
Well, I don't, I haven't annotated and sold my own books before. Well, I am going to annotate for this next one that I'm doing, and I am very much looking forward to it. And I know that Sebastian and Tess have a lot of experience with that. So I want to know, at what point does your hand start to hurt? At how many books are you like done and sick of it and it's boring, or do you ever get sick of it?
I never get sick of it, but because my hands are the way they are, I can do like half a book a day, and every few days I have to take a break. Because the joints aren't what they ought to be.
But you do very in-depth annotations. Like, I've got one of your annotated books, and there are some where you've written quite an extensive, like a decent amount. It's not just like, lol, in the sidelines, is it? It's, like, there's decent notes. Do you know what I mean? Like, mine would be vibes only, and like single words or like a half a sentence. Do you know what I mean? Whereas yours were quite in-depth. So I think it depends on sort of the amount of annotating you're doing as well and how in-depth you're going.
Mine is getting a little little too excited about research and assuming everyone else also wants to know how the Eglinton tournament connects to modern day Renaissance fairs.
Which we do, and I absolutely loved your annotations.
Yes.
But what I'm saying, do you know what I mean? Like, they are longer annotations than probably what are considered the average annotations on an author annotated book.
By my grandfather's standards, I am lightly annotating these books at best.
Yeah, where's my additional index at the back?
Possibly by your grandfather's standards, writing the book itself is light annotations. I didn't ever annotate anything until I did the Kitten Basie Kickstarter because I was trying to find low cost, like high yield rewards for the Kickstarter. And I noticed that annotations were offered across many book related Kickstarters. And I was like, well, shit, I can underline and I can write in the margins. I know how to do that because I did it in high school. And when I first went to do it for real, originally I tried to do like all the books all at once. So I would like flip to page 14 and highlight the line, and someone else would be opening the book to page 14 and I would be like underlining it. And I just did that for the whole book, all the annotations at once. And that sucked. Don't fucking do that. And then I came to the podcast hosts and I was like, y'all, this is taking me a really long time. What the hell is going on? And part of it was that when I was doing it on my Etsy, I was doing different annotations for every person based off what they wanted to know. And that's fine, but they were like, you should just annotate the book once and have like a list of the annotations. This was Sebastian's idea.
Well, because I saw you holding open a copy of the book you'd already annotated and then copying those annotations over into a blank book, and I was like, that's too many things to hold in your hands at one time.
I forgot I did that. I did do that.
I suggested perhaps making a text document of all the annotations, like on this page write this, on this page write this, and then just having the text document open on a screen in front of you while you annotate the book, instead of trying to hold open two books at the same time.
So smart! I'm gonna do that next time.
What I ended up doing was I annotated the book on the Kindle app on my computer so that I could see the whole book still, but could scroll through and click through all of the annotations and kind of see them in context of everything. So that's what I do now. That's where I was getting at anyway. That's what I do now. I just do the whole thing in the Kindle app, and if someone wants to know something specific, I'll add things. I was annotating a book for a friend and I was like, this line is for you, love you, and or whatever. Aww. But like, for the most part, they're the same.
Another reason to annotate is for ourselves in terms of marketing as well. Like when you're really struggling to pull like a hook or a sentence that's going to draw in the readers, like it's nice to have that annotated copy. I'm sure Noah's got plenty of blue ones, like in his books of, how to break your reader's heart. And, you can have like the romantic things or the high action things tabbed and annotated already so that they're highlighted, so they're easy to refer back to and go, oh yeah, I'm going to do a social media post about this scene or this sort of phrase. I think it can be useful for that as well from an author's side of things.
Very much so, yes. For me, the challenges of annotating a book I wrote is kind of getting over that initial hurdle of, I still can't believe anyone cares about this. Next to that is the hurdle of, I don't have a whole lot of confidence that what I find interesting is what the reader finds interesting, because I know that I'm fascinated by when the table fork first came into common usage in Northern Europe. I think that's cool and fun. I like to know the gap between Thing How falling into disuse as a Viking meeting site in Sherwood Forest and being rediscovered by archaeologists in 2005. I think that's cool and neat. I sure hope readers also think that's cool and neat. I haven't heard back.
I assure you this reader does. I find that interesting, and I love that you found that interesting. Does that make sense? And that inspired your writing, so.
Very kind of you to say. And kind of pursuant to that, my other big challenge is condensing pages and pages of ideas into comments that can fit into the physical boundary of the margins, because there are so many lines that I would highlight because I have so much to say about them, but there's no way I can fit what I have to say into the physical margin of the printed book. So it just has to go with a little heart next to it. and perhaps like a note to myself to write, the full 600-word article on it later.
This makes me think of when I was putting together the page of historical sources and things that I used for this book.
Yes.
I am like, people are going to read this and be like, there's nothing here from the book. And it's like, okay, listen, I used one little tiny detail and no one is ever going to know. But if I'm annotating it, I could be like, right here, this is the thing. Did you know that this thing was da-da-da, go off and explain? And that's going to be my problem too.
But I love that because the level of research that you've done for this book is off the charts. Like, some of the stuff that's gone into the group chat has just been wild. Like, no, like, pun intended.
Things you wouldn't even think of, and it's just like, you wouldn't even realize the thing. And I want to show that.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, really? That was a thing, like, in that time period? Like, wow, I didn't even know. So it's kind of an education and entertainment at the same time. I love it.
Did you want to learn entirely too much about late 19th and early 20th century portable watercolor kits? We have you covered.
That was an awesome chat. I loved that, though.
That was fun.
That was good fun.
Well, kind of indulging in my own securities for a moment. What do readers want from author annotated books? Do we know? Have we figured it out? Has anyone checked?
What we just said.
On my own Etsy, I have a little box that lets the reader kind of tell me what they would like to see from the annotations in terms of both the visual aesthetic and the notes themselves. And so sometimes people will be like, my favorite colors are these colors, and then I'll use those colors in my highlighting and in my stickers and in my little tabbies. Or sometimes readers will be like, I want to know a lot about the writing process. So then my notes will mostly be about the writing process. And some people don't give two shits. They just say, follow your heart. I've gotten the exact words, follow your heart, in my Etsy store many times. Like, verbatim.
Sounds like something I would do.
Overall, like, if I had data, which I don't, my hypothesis would be that readers want the book to match their personal preferences in terms of color, but then we'll leave it up to you, the author, in terms of what you think is worthwhile sharing.
That is the absolute inverse of the information I needed from them. No offense to your data or your readers.
My lack of data? But, I mean, like, is this information not helpful to you? Because then you get to have free reign.
It's like getting a commission for an illustrator and the commissioner being like, just draw whatever, and you as the illustrator are like,
But that means you get to make your little nice list of annotations and follow it without overthinking it.
No, that just increases the amount of overthinking I have to do to make up for the data I lack.
Well then, I don't know, you can take a survey and you can get actual real-life data, Sebastian. The world is your oyster.
Do your own work for once, Sebastian.
I mean, I'm going to make it even harder for you, Sebastian, because I'm going to say, like, I wouldn't even be specific about colours or, like, oh, I really want to know about your writing process. As a reader, like, if I was to buy a book, which I have, or annotated books off of authors, it's about that connection. Like, what do you want to tell me about your book? Like, that makes me feel connected to my favourite readers on a completely different level. Like, I don't care if it's just hearts and lols in the corner, or if it's essays on, portable watercolour kits in the late 1900s. Like, I don't care what it is you want to tell me. I just want to know what it is you want to tell me, because that connects me to the story and to the author in a more intimate way.
Well, and I think that proves my point, because, like, the reader wants to be connected to the author, but if you don't know each other, then there's no way for the actual annotations themselves to be personalized unless you do know them, which is why making the visual aspects of the annotation personalized, that is the connection that you can do there.
But I choose the highlighter color to coordinate to the cover art.
In your defense, like, I've been going through a lot of my Kickstarter stuff for Goldheart, and a lot of people just said, I want the annotations to match the cover, which gives me a lot of rain because there's purples and yellows and oranges and fuchsias. But, like, in Kit and Basie, some people are like, I like black. And I'm like, slay. Black you shall get.
For a second, I thought you meant just, like, instead of highlighting, just blacking words out with a Sharpie.
Redacted.
But then I realized you probably meant, like, underlining. And then...
That's a different type of poetry writing. That's a whole different can of worms.
Those are the annotations my grandmother made in her books. Whenever there was a curse word, she would just take her black Sharpie and take it out because in her words, those were her books and she didn't want to read those words.
Oh, bless her heart. I love that. That's adorable.
Honestly, slay Grandma.
Yeah.
She and Grandpa were quite a pair. I'm surprised a book in their house survived unscathed.
By the sounds of it, it didn't. Like, between them.
Grandpa's adding things, Grandma's subtracting things. Oh, back on track. Noah?
What were we talking about? What was the original question?
What do readers want from annotated books?
Besides the nerding out historical stuff, like say, I mean, that's already a given. Give me all the research and the facts. But if I'm reading like a fantasy or something else where that doesn't really apply, like I want to know how the author felt while reading it. Or like Tess said, like, oh, this scene almost didn't make it. Like I want to know what ones almost didn't make the cut or which ones were added in late. Or like, I guess I want to know from a reader/author standpoint what the author was thinking. So it's hard for me to say, but I really think it's fun to see how things came together.
Agreed.
Agreed.
So what makes annotating books fun for authors?
Washi tape.
Washi tape makes everything more fun.
It's my favorite part. Sometimes the annotating gets a little, especially if you're doing multiple books and doing the same annotations. Like it's fun the very first time you get to go through and engage in your book in a new way. But like, it's different every time. Washi tape. And there's so much washi tape out in the world. It's glorious.
Oh god, if my grandparents had access to washi tape.
Black washi tape, so they could just washi tape out the words.
Oh my gosh.
Luna, what makes it fun for you?
What you mean other than leaving fake Easter eggs, fake foreshadowing?
I mean, that's pretty fun.
Yeah, literally. The fuck?
I don't know that I'd be bold enough to take that same strategy, but it is tempting.
Look, just wind that back, alright? There's only one or two fake ones in there, it's fine.
I just would be worried that my readers would be like, damn, this bitch is saying there's foreshadowing and there ain't no fucking foreshadowing here. Does she know her own damn book?
Well, I feel like there's enough that is real foreshadowing that the rest will just get, like, left by the wayside. It'll be fine. Like, you won't even worry about those ones. Like, the big ones are going to make up for it, you know? But, I don't know, like, I didn't do a huge amount of annotations. I haven't done them in, like, bulk, and I don't offer them currently. So it's not something that I do, I won't be annotating, like, hundreds of books or anything. But for me, it was a really nice experience to kind of read back through it, trying to put it into a reader mindset. Like, I know what I would annotate and tab as a reader, and I was trying to be like, if I was reading this for the first time, what would I tab and highlight and stuff? And that was a really interesting way to look at my book, because when I'm normally reading back through it, it's for editing, or it's to, like, check for plot holes, or, like, I've got writer brain on. So reading it with reader brain is a really weird experience. And I do find that quite enjoyable, and I do try and, annotate it and tab it as I would if I were reading it for the first time. So, yeah, I think it's nice to look at your book from a different angle sometimes.
Absolutely.
I personally annotate with just a pencil. I don't do tabs and highlighting and things like that, so I think I'm gonna have to find ways to make it fun because I'm kind of boring on my own. But the surrounding process, like if you're setting yourself up to annotate a whole bunch of books, getting the playlist going for that book and just, I don't know, kind of the similar vibe to when you wrote it, it can be kind of nostalgic, especially since it's been a while since you've looked at it.
Mm-hmm.
And I also like, if it's like kind of feeling boring, I think listening to it, if that's an option, if you have an audiobook of it, listening to it, there might be things that stick out to you more or matter more or hit different when you're listening to it. And that might be a way to change it up and find different things to annotate.
Yeah. I also think this is like maybe a real answer that isn't just washi tape. But I think that it's fun for us to annotate our books, but it's also perhaps even more exciting and satisfying to see the readers' annotations.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like I've seen like readers like take pictures of or screenshot their annotations and post them or send them to me. Or even like on Goodreads when someone finishes the book and then they share all the notes that they were writing in their Kindle while they were reading. That's my bread and butter. I eat that shit up.
Yeah,
I love it.
100%.
See, I get people yelling at me and crying like Luna, and it's like, look at all this blue and red, and look how angry I am.
Slightly different subgenres, and Tess may be getting more of those comments now that Goldheart has come out.
Yeah.
Yeah, be careful what you wish for, Tess.
I've been getting a lot of DMs that are like, folks have not been happy. But folks have been happy, but folks have been not happy.
Folks have been happy to be unhappy. Well, what makes annotating books fun for me is I have the opportunity to revisit the characters and fall in love with them all over again, especially if it's been, like I said, a minute since the book came out. And because I'm a big nerd, I love having the opportunity to expand on world building in both the historicals and the fantasies, because, like, historical world building, the world is already there, but you're kind of showing sides of history that perhaps have not been shown before, or at least not widely known. And then for my fantasies, it's like, this world building that's been going on in the background for the whole novel was cut for time, but if you really want to know why the city is called Halcyon, and why Fiore lives in a dry dock ship called the Kingfisher, and what both historically inspired those names, and what historically inspired the notion of a dry dock ship turning into a brothel in the first place, now I can yell about that for as many words as will fit into the margin, and then go soak my hand in ice for a while.
Or see the extended index.
And Tess, I believe, has some exciting new data to report from an annotation book release party.
Once again, not really actual real data. But I was approached by my local bookstore they basically were like, let's do a release party. And I said, awesome, what does that look like? And they were like, you tell us. And I was like, okay.
Good luck.
Good luck. It's kind of the same thing with Kickstarters. Like, what do you do to bring readers in when they have no idea what the book is and, like, if they're gonna like it, or, like, what do you do to, like, just get interest from the get-go? And after much deliberation, I decided on an annotation party, during which all fantasy, romance lovers, or just book lovers in general, but I was gearing towards fantasy and romance people, could come together, and we would have all the annotation supplies at the store, and then the ticket price would include that supplies as well as a copy of my book and a bookmark. And there was a lot of planning of, like, how many people are going to come, and I was like, I don't know, because I wasn't sure how many people actually did like to annotate their books. I know people like to receive annotated books because I've sold many of them, but, like, how many people actually sit down and annotate? I don't know. None of my immediate friends, other than the ones in this chat who have said so. But anyway, the release party came, and a lot of people had a nice time annotating while they were talking. Some people were more into their annotations, and some people were more into talking. But in general, it seemed like people did like to kind of go through and start to underline their books a little bit. Most of all, it seemed like people liked to kind of do that type of annotations that I was talking about earlier, where they were mostly, like, focusing on the visual stuff, because that's the kind of stuff that you can do while you are talking with other people. So there was a lot of, like, stickers and stamps and doodling and stuff, not only in the books that they had brought, but also in Goldheart. So overall, if you're an indie author and you're looking for, like, a fun little release day event, 10 out of 10 recommend. We sold, quick maths. Hold on.
Run the numbers.
85% of the books that the store purchased for not only that event, but for a signing that'll happen next week. So they sold more than they expected to, and we'll have to order more. And it seemed like a good little event. But I did get a local author in my emails asking me what an annotation party was, why people would want to annotate in their books, and why people would want to spend that much money on it. So just know that if you do it too, there might be emails saying that you're a heathen. You're a book heathen.
Well, that's part of the fun, surely. Final thoughts on annotations?
We love them.
If you like annotated books, seek us out. We'll annotate them for you.
But also, if you're doing your own, annotate whatever the heck you want. If you want to just draw little hearts on everything and cover your book in washi tape, that's cool. If you want to analyse the text and be really specific and put all your research notes in the margins, like, that's cool too. However you choose to enjoy your book is awesome.
If you want to correct what you believe to be an error in the text concerning the use of the term broad A versus long A to describe a particular vowel, you can be my grandfather and then have a handwritten in-text to your quote-unquote corrections into the back of the book.
And if you wish to redact all the curse words, you can be Sebastian's grandmother.
Oh. Well, thank you for joining me for this roundtable. Luna, where can people find your books, annotated and otherwise?
So my books are currently for sale on my website, which is lunaday.com, and they are currently available on Amazon. But I am now inspired to start Annotated Books as being available to my readers, which I will put up on my website when they're available, so keep your eyes peeled.
You can find me at Neshama Publishing, Neshama publishing.com, and I do not sell annotated books right now, but I will be for a project coming out in August.
You can find me at tess.carletta on Instagram and at tesscarletta.com, and I sell my annotated books on my Etsy. Gold Heart will be coming this fall.
And you can find all of my books at sebastiannothwell.com, as well as a link to my Etsy, where I annotate everything I've ever written because I've gone completely mad and I am my grandparents' grandchild.
We love you for it.
We expect you to be nothing less.
Well, thank you for listening, and be sure to join us again for another roundtable soon. Au reservoir!
Bye!
Au reservoir!